Greetings and welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by myself and that gay guy over there. How's it going, gay guy over there? Call you Gay Mysterio.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yeah. Yes. See, it's funny because I called you gay. I have depicted you as the soy jack and myself as the Chad. The Aryan Giga Chad.
Yeah, Aryan.
I was on the schizo stream on Friday night, which
which Chad are you? Like, which meme Chad are you?
Yeah. I'm posting pictures of myself when I was really young, and Darren said that I looked like a young IDF soldier.
Yeah, kind of.
I had like the curly Jufro, and yeah. Do you know how long I was on the schizo stream?
Yeah, I do because I woke up the next morning and you guys were still going.
Yes. So we started at like, I don't know, I hopped in there maybe 8:10, 8:15 in the evening, something like that. And I finally signed off. It was just Darren and I at the very end, just the two of us talking. And I finally signed off at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So it struck me afterwards that I was on the schizo stream for 11 hours. That's a long time. Anyways, yes.
I like the Chad meme where he's like, it's the Chad who's doing like this thing with his hand. You know, the Chad and the Virgin?
Yeah, the Chad and Virgin one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Virgin's like sad.
Yeah, he looks like Xavier.
Yeah, he does. I am the only healthy person in the house this week. Eastwood is as sick as I've ever seen him. I don't think there was, speaking of 11 hours, he actually stayed in the exact same spot, like laying down on the bed, head on a pillow, laying on his left side, did not move for 11 hours on, I think it was Saturday. And he's hardly moved even since then. He is as sick as I've ever seen him. Amy is sick. My sister is sick. Somehow I've made it out. I don't know how. I don't know how long it's going to last, but
Nicotine.
I don't think that's, I think there's something to it. I think that when it comes to flu, respiratory virus, seasonal, weird bugs that go around, I think that nicotine has some protective effects. I mean, sample size 1. My N is myself.
Well, I don't know, man. Like, I still, to this day, have never had COVID, despite doing, or if I did, I had no symptoms whatsoever, but despite doing literally nothing to avoid it ever. Like, I remember my wife got it really early on, like March 2020, February 2020, really early on. And we had to quarantine in the house for 2 weeks. So I was with my wife for 2 weeks, and I didn't do anything to avoid her because I'm like, well, if I'm gonna get it, let's get it now, get it over with. And for the next week and a half, she's just like miserable, and I'm like playing video games, and I'm perfectly fine, just hanging out. And the old I don't know, and I was like chain smoking. Just never got it.
That must be what it is for me. But in the event that the nicotine lets me down, you guys are warned.
Nicotine like metabolizes into like some particular variety of B vitamin or something that's supposed to be really good or really protective against COVID. So I don't know. It seems as good a theory as any for me.
I mean, it was pretty well documented that the incidence of COVID, or like I think it was both the incidences of COVID and the incidences of severe cases of COVID were both like numerically significantly less among regular smokers than non-smokers. Yeah,
which for a respiratory disease seems a little odd.
I think it had something to do with
they were telling people don't smoke; that'll make it worse.
Right, when it was demonstrable that smokers were having better outcomes. Yeah,
maybe it's just because smokers on nut are probably just because of the appetite suppressant effect of nicotine. Maybe they're thinner just on Maybe that's part of it, because I know like obesity was probably like number one factor for having a bad case.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then
They tend to be thinner.
nicotine has also has a well documented pro testosterone effect. So
Oh,
if the goal was to go after men, then perhaps boosting
okay.
your manhood was protective.
Okay, this was the other thing I was going to say is nicotine and type O blood. That's interesting because this was the case with both me and all of my siblings who were all O's. Is that I think my siblings, like my brother and my sister, they finally did get it, but it was like a year later or something like that. They finally get it on some new variant or whatever that came through or whatever. But none of my siblings, none of us got it, despite having all of our spouses and their families and everyone getting it, having to be like locked in with them. None of my siblings got it, including myself. I still haven't got it, and I am a blood type O and consume a lot of nicotine.
So maybe this is the type
The air
O's.
superior blood.
Are you letting us know now that this was a scheme by the type O's to kill everyone off?
Yes.
Well, it didn't work on me yet.
Damn.
I like this. Ninja of Spades says can't infect a tar coating. Yeah, really, that's what it is. You know, you just
Right.
you just get enough tar coating it in there, and the virus just can't get a seat. It's like, man, slipping around, and I can't. Maybe if it's tar, it's sticky, so it's like getting stuck in there. Actually, we're pummeling the virus.
I actually haven't had a cigarette, and I've just been doing pouches. I haven't had a cigarette in like 2.5 weeks now. So I'm kind of worried. Like, am I gonna get sick finally? Am I finally gonna get sick? I don't know. Maybe I consume enough, pouches to ward it off.
Yeah. You just, I don't know, microplastics in the balls.
My sense of smell. My sense of smell has come back. It's amazing. I always thought that I just had a really stunted sense of smell. Compared to like my wife who smells everything. And like I'm smelling things again. Like this is crazy. Apparently smoking for 15 years kind of does something, kind of dulls your senses.
I've always had I've always had a normal nose, a normal sense of smell, but I live with the most magnificent nose ever. Amy has a superhero nose. She can smell absolutely anything.
I don't know. My wife might have her beat.
Oh, we need to have a smell off.
Yeah.
There's got to be a Jew joke in here somewhere. Talking about like magnificent noses. I don't know. Hit the like, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get going with the Astrolabe here. Cooper doesn't have the whole... probably won't be able to stay here for the whole stream, but there was something in particular that I wanted to get into with him.
Yeah, I gotta go I have to do a book report with my son. Hey, do you guys want to hear a funny wife Jack story real quick?
Oh yes, you have to tell him.
So yesterday and today, but more so yesterday, I just had this crazy headache. And I assumed that it was like kind of came on maybe early afternoon, later part of the day. I assumed it was from like probably just being at church, the incense, because if I'm in the nave too long while there's incense or something, like I start to get a headache. But then it goes away after a couple hours. But that was not happening yesterday. Horrible headache, and then most of today too. So I suspected it probably has something to do with the fact that I live in Michigan, and we went from 8 degrees Fahrenheit to 45 degrees Fahrenheit in like 12 hours. Because that's the time of year it is where you just have these crazy variances in temperature. And I figured it was just like a pressure thing. So today I'm on the phone with my wife, and I'm relating like, I think I'm wondering if like the temperature change is what's giving me this headache. And she's like, no, because I also have a headache. And I'm like, so why is it not the case that the temperature change might be affecting both of us? Considering we, like live in the same house and the same town, in the same state, the same country, on the same planet. I'm not exactly sure what her logic is. I guess in her mind, if she has a headache and I have a headache, it can't be because of the temperature change.
We love our wife, Jack.
I'm
Don't we,
guessing it
folks?
has to do with the fact that one of the little ones just got over a cold, so maybe she's thinking like, "Oh, she had a cold. Now you have a headache, and I have a headache. Maybe we're getting like the cold or something like that." But like, neither of us have any symptoms at all except for just a headache. So
Yeah, it's like her brain got stuck on a track of like, do I or do I not, or am I not getting a cold? And I have this symptom, and I don't have the other symptoms. And oh, wait a second, Cooper has the same symptoms, so maybe both of us are getting a cold. And you're like, no, I think my thing's from something else. And she's like, well, no, because I have it.
Yeah,
maybe your headache is from the something else.
that's what I think. Yeah, I think you elucidated well. Probably the logic that was going on there, but I was kind of like stupefied. Like I didn't have a response for a second. It's just like I wasn't. I guess I didn't expect to be told no because I also have a headache. What?
You're just sitting here in your head. You're like, oh man, I got a headache, and I wonder if it's from this thing. I'm gonna go tell my wife about it. Hey, I have a headache. I think it's from this thing. No. Oh, dude, fuck you.
Why? Because I have a headache too. Okay.
Oh man, we love our wife Jacks.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to get hype? You ready? America's back.
In the proud spirit of America and in the proud spirit of our great country,
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
That's a banger.
Banger.
That is
The thing
a
about
banger.
AC/DC that drives me insane is they have some of the coolest riffs ever. They just go like so freaking hard, and they, like Angus Young, the dude just shreds, and they're drummers. They're just hiring guys who like started drumming a week ago. All of the drum beats are just four on the floor. Just that's it. Nothing else. No fills, no pizzazz, nothing. It's just like
Drummers from Temu.
that's it. Yeah. Not even that. It's like I don't know, the kid in 5th grade who just started band and I don't know, lives on your block.
Bryce says, the more I see of stuff like this, it makes me think the last 23 years have been a war on the American state of mind, and we're getting out of it finally. Yes. Like, I watch this here, and I'm getting just like, yeah! I remember 20 years ago, and having this image of America as being like this. Like, just rowdy and disrespectful and in your face, and we're gonna go do dumb shit just because something we might get a good story out of it. We're gonna have crazy remarkable feats, and everyone's just proud to be an American. And you know what, if you don't like Americans, well, fuck you, because we don't care about the rest of the world. It's like the rest of the world does the meme of the elevator from Mad Men, and he's like the rest of the world is like, oh, you're so retarded. And we're like, we don't even think about you. You're irrelevant. You people don't matter. there was a shot from there was a picture that was taken of Daniel Penny in the box with JD Vance and Donald Trump at the Army Navy game. And it's just the three of them just standing there smiling, and someone captioned on it, "We are going to fucking kill you." And I don't know why it struck me as so funny, but it's like like that sort of meme is there's an irony to it. Like, we're gonna post this like just picture of some guys smiling and we're going to fucking kill you. It's like overly violent to this thing with this thing that's not violent at all. There's a weird meta thing happening there. But that American spirit is undeniably American. The thing that a video like that evokes, you know, the existence of the meme, Europeans can't comprehend this. The fact that that meme exists is an indicator of this quality of the American spirit. And I think that spirit has been stifled, and I think right now it's beginning to open back up again. We're starting to see it. You know, America has had a head cold for the last 20 or 25 years. But America's stepping out, the sun is shining, and starting to get a bounce in our step again. Here's another example. Mark Andreessen's been doing some very interesting podcast conversations lately, and has been more and more explicitly engaging with our guys on Twitter. He was going back and forth with Kryptos a couple days ago, and then another one of our guys, I can't remember which one. There's a group of them they're all like thread posters that are anonymous that kind of lump together for me. So he's got the American flags going here, and then Sean McGuire, another PayPal Mafia guy that we've watched for a while, is these guys are all very happy about patriotism being back again.
Now, please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem, performed today by the combined glee clubs of the United States Military Academy and the United States Naval Academy, under the direction of Connie Chase.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and the bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red red, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of
Oh man. Straight Buster says if you aren't singing along, you're getting deported too. Yeah, I was doing all I could. The first several times that I heard it, I was in full voice. Especially I sang bass and choir when I was in high school, and I've always loved bass singing. And hearing this a choral performance like this, where it's not like all the upper end, all the tenors and sopranos drowning everything out, but actually getting that real strong bass line in there. It's just like, America's back.
Fuck yeah.
Milk Boy over here. All right, so yeah, Trump was saluting. There was another shot that I just the whole imagery of all of this. You have the Army Navy game. They're all they're gearing up for this big rivalry game, and the optics of it all. I was thinking about you have the flyovers before a game. You have like the B-52 bombers like over before the game, and everyone. This is like a totally lib-coded thing. When everyone would be like counter signaling any sort of like patriotic or nationalist or militaristic displays around big sporting events. This was like a completely lib coded thing not that long ago. And I've seen a depressing number of supposedly our guys who have gotten really cynical about all this stuff. And I understand why they're cynical, obviously. But like, if you are allowing your cynicism to morph you into professing lib-coded things, shit lib-coded things, like, aren't you really just the one owning yourself? So this is part of the conversation here that I wanted Cooper here for. First of all, we got this. I had to throw this one in here, so just to start off with, another banger. This is some of the deep lore. Like, if you haven't been part of right-wing Twitter for a long time, you might not completely get this. Do you recognize this chick here, Cooper? I think you're muted.
Oops, I was muted.
You might not be able to recognize her immediately from this. That's the Italian chick who looked like she has this. I don't even know how to describe it. Very. I'm at a loss for words. Hold on. Let me. You might be able to. You got the art ho brain. You might be able to think of what it is that I'm. This chick here.
Oh yes, that chick. Yes.
What's her towel? Yeah, towel boy. Yeah. That's what I was trying to think of. The towel boy. She's got like the towel boy phenotype. So this is one of our great meme lords.
That doesn't look like her at all, right there.
Yeah, you'll notice it more when she's moving. She's in the middle of moving here where I paused it. But Project 2025 from one of our meme lords.
God, what a banger, man.
What a banger! There's levels to this one. It's so fascinating to me. You've got the spinning swastika behind the towel boy meme girl, who is she's like dancing all sexy, but she's wearing like a kind of a frumpy hoodie and jeans, and then you've got a shit lib anthem song. With there's what is this? What is this, Cooper? Explain your generation to me.
What's your question?
There's like,
first of all, I'm glad chicks don't dress like that anymore. Like the early aughts where people were wearing like baggy pants and.
Oh yeah.
Ugh, a horrible look.
So that's another
new
element
metal.
of this. Yes, new metal. Yeah,
I hate that look.
That's an element of this as well. That there's this callback to an older style, kind of. So there's it's like hipster and but also futuristic kind of, and combining like a shitlib coded thing with a literal swastika and putting them together. And it's basically, I think really my theory about it is that this sort of thing, the people who are creating this aren't thinking about it on this level. I'm looking at him like doing the art critique or art analysis or whatever, but they're colonizing some of the most shit lib coded things you can think of with like reactionary right wing fascism, however you want to frame it. They're basically creating content designed to own the libs, but then it just works. Like you watch it and you're like, this is a fucking banger. Yeah. I don't care if this is Katy Perry top 40 shit lib music. It's ours now. This is what we use it for.
I don't really have a whole lot to add. It's just irony, shit posting.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's as deep as you're trying to like kind of parse out like what's going on here. And it's like some fucking Zoomer just thought it was.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what's so fascinating about it. That there's a category of people that are just kind of effortlessly producing this without much thought into it, but it's very revelatory.
Mm-hmm.
California Girls is a chud anthem now.
Right.
Like how do you wind up in a world where Katy Perry singing about California girls becomes a chud anthem? Where it's like the things that represent everything the chuds exist to like they recoil from. And yet there's this, maybe it's a high openness thing. Like they're really, really high in openness, these schizo posters. And so they're willing to take this thing that normally you would identify yourself culturally as like, we are not that thing. We have nothing to do with that culture. But that it's like a withdrawing away from it, like more of an like insular. We're going to withdraw into our little circle. Whereas this is exploratory. This is expansive. It's colonizing.
Well, and there's an interesting sort of this is one of those things that's just kind of a vibe, feel kind of thing. So I can't really explain it, but it's just kind of a sense that I have, an intuition, vril, kundalini. I don't know. I've got my radar up.
Chakras.
Yeah, my root chakra is just on fire. And
it's expanding.
it seems like not that long ago, perhaps our I'm kind of getting tired of saying our guys, but that you know who I'm talking about when I say that. Might have listened to a song like that ironically. I don't know that they're listening to it ironically anymore. Like the song's just a banger.
Yeah, it is. It's some of these songs are just like early 2000s techno or EDM is like on one hand it's really shallow and like really low brow kind of. It's like I'm trying to think of like
the opposite of this would have been like, you remember that video a couple months back where you had all those like white chicks at some like rave or something listening to Creed?
Yeah.
That, but in the opposite direction.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the white chicks, the like the urban shit-lib millennials, white chicks listening to Creed, yeah, is like the parallel to a bunch of chuds listening to Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and like there's something to the music too, like the beat in the music, the way that the music is created is designed to appeal to you on a really animal level kind of. That's all the anti-Harry Potter moms of the 90s who I remember for a while my mom went down this thing about like backbeats and how there was like some books that were written for basically to scare Christian moms in the 90s.
Yeah, many such cases.
That said that if the kids are listening to anything, so if the kids are listening to music where the emphasis is on the 2-4 instead of the 1-3, then that means it's actually like this is like how demons possess you. And
yeah,
so
right.
You have to make sure there's no backbeats in anything. And then, don't even get me started about syncopation. Like that's where where the devil lives.
808s, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like I remember being young and my mom getting weird if we were watching like Nat Geo documentaries or something, and there was some African tribe doing like a dance around a fire. She thought like demons would come out of the TV, you know?
Don't look.
Yeah.
That's where it started, Cooper.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my mom is a interesting lady.
Yeah, and in some ways she's kind of ahead of the curve, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was like, I don't know how to describe her. She's like, okay. She's kind of nominally Christian, very, very Christian. And in terms of like kind of like a moralist type, like kind of probably like your mom, kind of, you have that sort of you know, Protestant 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
You know,
Like it was like the moms
Satanic
who were
kind of.
yeah, the mothers against drunk driving.
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say it's like the Mad Moms or
yep, or
that's
the
Bear.
content warnings on music.
Oh,
Like I remember,
yeah.
like, oh, you gotta put the label on the Eminem CD, and then all the people were mad about. Or actually, we were talking about this in the Schizo stream, that I think the well, I was hanging out on an internet board with some
ne'er-do-wells.
yeah, some just total Southern California shitlibs. Just completely, they live in their own little world. They have no awareness of the outside world. And listening to them talk about Republicans, it struck me that their perception of Republicans and what they think is the predominant, overwhelming culture of the world right now is the moral majority people. So like the moms who are scared that your kids are going to like playing violent video games or is gonna make your kids into criminals, and like that whole culture of the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
They think that's the predominant culture motivating like Republicans or Trump voters or whatever. They think that constituency has any sort of bearing on the world right now. And it struck me that the whole SJW, woke, Bernie Sanders, progressive, whatever, that whole movement is entirely a reaction to the moral majority. They see themselves as on a crusade against the moral majority still.
Which is why they have all their shitty, edgy Rick and Morty humor and stuff.
Yeah.
We just make it like, and to be fair, I get it. Those, like, the moral majority, that kind of ethos is really annoying. But yeah, no, the moral majority mom, that like, yes, temperamentally, that was my mom. On the other hand, she was also kind of like a right-wing hippie. So she's kind of like, okay, you got this moral majority sort of Protestantism. And then you've got like Bush neocon Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got anti-vax hippie organic food co-op mom who's also a naturopath and is doing like Reiki and, I don't know, talking about chakras with energy work and essential oils and all of that shit. Weird lady all over the place.
So she's like 3 out of 4 of the major coalitions that define the Republican Party right now. You've got like the RFK people. Yeah, you've got like the RFK people. You've got the Marco Rubios. You've got the what was the other one? Oh, the moral majority people. So I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that moral majority sentiment.
It's not a thing anymore.
It doesn't exist. It's gone. And it was. I mean, I'm not sad that it's gone. I think it was incredibly annoying. And I remember growing up as a kid and having a sense of that, like that like egregore out there, that there was like this coalition of psychically connected, overweening kind of like nanny state moms who were going around, were complaining about drugs or you know, rock music or rap or whatever, and yet. In many ways, they were also like validated that.
Dude, like, I guess, but like, I remember my mom having a fucking conniption because my cousin, who was older than us, had given us a copy of Rainbow Six on the PC from like frickin' 2001 or something like that. And it was, you know, she was violent video games, you know, she was really worried about the violent video games because that was the time and place. I remember she'd only let us play it like once a week or something like that, and we had to turn off the setting that had like the blood on or whatever, so that like, okay, like the shooting games are bad and they're gonna make you violent or whatever. And like, I go back and I watch, you know, you try to watch like gameplay of that freaking game now. And like,
It's like a bunch of
potatoes.
chunky pixels running around.
Yeah, right. It just looks horrible. Like this, it's like when people, that comes out of kind of the Columbine sort of the downfall of that with like Doom and stuff. And I'm like, man, if Doom is radicalizing people to go like commit mass atrocity, then I don't know what to tell you, because like all of human history has been like you've been surrounded by death and people aren't like going and shooting up schools. So I don't think it's the video games, but maybe I don't know, man.
Like when you look back at it though, like they were identifying a subversive force. Like they were all in a tizzy about it, and you could call that force something like the negrification of America's youth, because like they were very disturbed by the hip hop and the doing drugs and the crime and drunk driving and all of these things were. They saw that as a force that was taking over America. So like they're reacting to this sense of degeneracy that's flowing in. But the really awkward, insufferable way that they went about expressing all of that is ultimately what bred the woke movement, the
just
woke
totally
response.
Accelerated it.
Yeah. Because that's all, like, I remember I went to a high school where when we got to the school, we were not allowed to have headphones, and we had to turn in all of our tapes and CDs that we had to be approved by the dean. And if they were approved, she would listen to the whole thing, then she would give it back to us. And if it was approved, it would have a sticker on it that said it had been approved. If it was not, she would keep it in her office until we went home, and then they would release it back to us. So they would confiscate the music that was not, and it was any music that had drums in it, essentially. If it was like, if it was like Christian, like the most cringy Christian music possible that had drums in it, well, then it had to be evil. It was gonna corrupt your mind or something like that. So I remember growing up in that milieu, and then being friends with people who were adjacent to that and seeing the way that they reacted to that sort of world, the really conservative Christian world, and wokeness was just that reaction dialed up to 15.
Yeah, I think coming full circle on them on the moral majority now. It's like, yeah, I guess you are right. Kind of the white Protestant mom sort of instincts were kicking in. Like, we don't like this, the rap music and the video games is going in a bad direction. But the way they went about dealing with it was so like insufferable that like I can be sympathetic to everyone on both sides. Like, okay, like the idea that, so, in a given measure of music, the accent is 1/4 note later than normal, or what you would approve of, and that right there, like your kid's listening to that, his eyes roll back, he's just speaking in Latin or something,
foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, right.
No, Timmy. Here's another one of these. So this is the first one that I saw, White Boy Winter here, and then I've got some comments on the Gonic phenomenon. Another banger.
Yeah. I like this. Just take all of like the top 40 from 15 years ago and put a swastika,
Black Eyed Peas music with a swastika in it. So, longtime followers of the channel will remember the term that we coined a while back, the Gonics. And Gonic is a portmanteau between Gooner and eunuch. And we talked about these. There's a certain category of influencer, I suppose is the term of the day, that they pass themselves off as being like the super based right-wing alpha Chad, very over the top performatively racist and misogynist, and like they're making a point of the racism and the misogyny and the anti-Semitism and whatever else. They're doing it really performatively because it's transgressive, and this is how you can prove your street cred. But and many of the things that they would say, or the analyses they would provide, would be, they'd have a lot of great insights, very intelligent guys, but there was always this little kernel that you would get slipped in, this little kernel of nihilism, where at the end of the day, they would say some variant of, there's nothing you can do. Women have destroyed your society. Blacks have destroyed your society. Jews have destroyed your society. They're all arrayed against you. Everyone hates you. The legal system is distorted against you. The don't get married. Getting married is for cucks. Don't be a wife guy. Ultimately, their message was essentially the only thing that could ever make things better is if daddy comes home and fixes it. And until daddy comes home and fixes it, there's nothing you can do. Might as well just dedicate your life to resentment and gluttony, or whatever. Pick your passion. And we identified this phenomenon like a year ago, and we coined the term Gonic to indicate this sort of guy, this sort of right-wing poster, almost always anonymous, but not necessarily, who were capturing audiences of young men by providing really interesting insights and analysis. But it would always be one little thing that you would get in the video essay or the Twitter thread or whatever, where you go, hold on a second. So
it was just kind of like, it was like the right wing equivalent of like grievance studies. They were always like leveraging resentment and stuff.
Yes, and
really brilliant points, but there was always that there where they're fanning those flames, which I always thought was bad.
Yes, and they would sometimes even actively, if somebody was trying to inspire you to, I don't know, get in shape or start working out, get in shape, go get a better job, go study, go start a business, go do any of these sorts of things. They would be like, oh no, that's like people are trying to get you to buy in the system. They're trying to make you deny your own vril, whatever. Like the true path to manhood is sitting and posting on the internet angrily in your boxers, never going outside. They'd counter signal, touch grass is stupid millennial Reddit tier stuff. And so one of the guys who we identified as we called him the chief of the Gonics was Zero H.P. Lovecraft. He was one of the masters of this. Then he left the internet for a while, and I think now we need to claim credit for this. That it was actually our move against him that induced him into abandoning Twitter for several months, because since he came back, he's been on a roll. So I've got a couple of
this guy. He's redeemed himself. I've been quite impressed with the change in tenor.
Yes, I've got a couple of threads
I feel kind
from
of
him.
bad because just a couple months ago I was on somebody's stream talking really mad shit about him. It was right after he disappeared from the internet for a little while. He was on his hiatus. And I was talking some crazy shit, and now I feel kind of bad for that. So for anyone who was there or remembers that, I rescind my previous statements.
Yes, the official Gonic nomination commission have temporarily
Gonic report
withdrawn. Yes, the Gonic report. We have temporarily withdrawn the Gonic label from Mr. Zero HP. He's got a couple here. First one, reacting to that last video I just played. He said, it's interesting to trace the recent semiotic evolution of the swastika. The current political order, it has 35 days, hates men and it calls everything it hates Nazis. As such, a swastika in 2024 is a pro-male symbol, even if one has no sympathy for the actual Nazis. This is interesting because I was looking at this and I was like, I know there's a lot of people in my life who, if they saw a hype video like this with a swastika in it, they would be horrified. Because they still have this reflexive post-war consensus like Nazis equal Satan thing. And while I'm not a Nazi, I think Orrin McIntyre has the best take on this, that Nazism, fascism, these are dead ideologies. You can study them, you can find them interesting, you could sympathize with them in the historical narrative, but to identify with them today, to identify as a fascist today, or to identify as a Nazi today is an anachronism. They don't exist anymore. And I'm, as an American, I'm not a Nazi because Nazism was a German phenomenon. You can have something similar for America, but it's by definition it's going to be completely different because it's American. But the swastika has been obviously like one of the worst symbols of all time. It was the most banned symbol. And now it's getting normalized. And the way it's getting normalized is by the Zoomer generation, really. It's kind of started in the latter part of the millennials, but the Zoomer generation just being like, we don't really give a shit about all of your consensus about this thing or that thing or whatever. Your whole system is gay. It hasn't worked the entire time we've been alive. We have to see the dumbest people pretend to be taken seriously, and everything's fake and gay. So if this thing pisses you off, then we're just going to use it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like finger wag at people over something, like this particular symbol. You gotta get out of here, man. It's it's hard for somebody of my generation to take you seriously when you're finger wagging over things like this. When our entire life, all we've ever seen is things get worse. Our whole life. So I don't really care.
And actually the sentiment. So here's where the connection with the moral majority thing is. This, like, we're going to identify this symbol and be like, oh, this is the devil. And we need to freak out and panic and soy jack over this. That was the moral majority reaction to things like cussing in music or whatever. And so the woke reaction to it is them aping the methodology that they inherited and just turning it against all of the things that they can associate with the original progenitors of that methodology. The moral majority people being the ones who started this. You could trace it back further, I'm sure, but the moral majority was a thing that really stuck out. It was a significant moment that defined the better part of a decade. Their methodology of pick this thing that's associated with the people in the world that we don't like, and then pearl clutch about it, and go on moralizing campaigns about getting rid of it. That is the same methodology that the woke inherited. So in this way, the woke are actually they're a derivative of a Christian movement. They have a Christian methodology. They have and it's a Christian in quotes. And really their opposition to any of the structures of society that they don't like is actually couched in you are insufficiently Christian. You don't care about the poor people. You are insufficiently Christian. You claim to be Christian, but you don't. Here's this oppressed minority. You claim to favor oppressed minorities, but look at this one. You're not doing a good enough job being a Christian. This is the real thread from Zero HP that was very interesting. I think he's exactly right. He is exactly right. He says the factional divide on the right is between winners and losers. Winners are doing well in life and see Trump's victory as something that makes the good world even better. Losers are addicted to feeling like besieged rebels. They must diminish the Trump win as some kind of trick. He absolutely hits the nail on the head, and this is something that's been bothering me for a while.
Total opposite of. He's totally changed his tune. This is like the opposite of the things he was saying. I don't know, a year ago or whatever.
Makes me wonder if somebody else took his account, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe he got married or something. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why he was gone.
Yeah. I mean, it would fit, and if so, then good on him.
He finally went outside.
But this, he says, you can pretty much apply this razor to every new topic on X. For example, Team Loser loves Luigi's Mansion because he was obviously on Team Loser. The ways that the Jewish question can be used to facilitate the cognitive habits of Team Loser are left as an exercise for the reader. You're getting spicy here. This is obviously he's saying this to be provocative, but the way that I see a lot of people talking about whether you could pick it, it could be women, it could be the Longhouse, it could be Jews, it could be blacks, it could be illegal immigrants, it could be Zionists, It could be Italians, it could be literally any group.
Spaniards.
They attribute
Finns,
Dutch, Brazilians,
Polynesians.
there's this like mimetic pattern that keeps repeating itself over and over again. That's something to do with internet and social media. But like people see a bad person, they see this, pick out this bad person, then they start finding out all the different ways that every single thing that they see happening could be connected to that bad person, and actually that bad person's responsible for it. And they spin themselves up into this frenzy and start going around and like yelling at everybody else for not talking enough about this bad person and all the bad plans that they have. And every single thing that happens is actually a manifestation of how they have this bad plan that they're preparing and they're 4D chessing in, and we're all going to be held susceptible to it. The only people who are like not going to be affected by it are the people who are just sitting around yelling about it all the time. Like they couldn't possibly be a part of that whole scheme. They couldn't be useful idiots for that. They've figured out the key, which is we sit here and we cry about whatever organized conspiracy we've perceived is going to take over the world and usher in horrifying things in every possible way. So like every single good thing that happens now becomes a justification for why all the bad things we're predicting are going to happen. It's like a cottage industry of apocalypse predictions. And here we have, which is like a dialed up version of the Gonic phenomenon. Like this is what the Gonic thing is, to a greater or lesser degree. No matter what you do, no matter what you choose to set your mind to, the system is designed against you, and it's designed to block and obstruct and harm you on every single front. And so you need to focus your mind at all times on how all these different bad things are happening and all these bad people are out there. And every single time something comes up, well, the obvious immediate answer is the thing that feeds my priors about how the Jews have taken over the world and have used their future prediction simulator AI machine to calculate every possible move that will ever be made, and every single thing that happens is actually just playing into their hands. This is exceptionally gay. What this does, like as he's pointing out here, this is the losers. The losers are addicted to feeling like besieged rebels. This is why the dissident right term is gay. Like, it had its time, but if you're identifying that way, if you're like, I am a dissident, I am a minority, and I'm going to dedicate all my time to figuring out all the ways that I am a minority, and anybody who tells me that maybe I shouldn't act like a besieged minority, actually they're part of this scheme to oppress me, you're advertising that you're a loser. You're actually going to manifest the very thing that you think that you're trying to avoid. If you begin acting like Jews run the world, if you begin acting like the Illuminati controls everything, if you begin acting like the Zionists have game theoried out every possible thing here and they're tapped into the most powerful forces on Earth, and there's nothing that we could do to stop them. All we can do is just build our bunker and hide and hope that the radiation doesn't get to us. You are actually manifesting that world. You're making it more likely that that actually happens because you're granting a power to them that they don't have.
It's kind of like we were just talking about this the other day. All right, I think I was talking to you about this. A lot of the naysayers and the doomers and the spoomers and the coomers and the joomers and yada yada yada. I think they don't like the fact that, like, okay, just a couple of years ago when like NRX was still a thing or something. I remember when I first stumbled and kind of came into and learned about NRX and started moving in those circles a couple of years ago or whatever. And at that time, it still was edgy, kind of esoteric shit. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that has become really mainstream. And a lot of the people who kind of cut their teeth and got all their online internet cred being edgy, esoteric, dude, I think a lot of them are not willing to give that up. Even though, like, their worldview is ostensibly kind of mainstream now, and you should take the win. And then they're kind of like, they've got like this ideological Stockholm syndrome thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Here's a great example of it. This was in the replies to Zero HP. I don't know who this guy is. It's just the reply.
Yeah,
fits.
it's just hipsterism. Yeah.
Is this to avoid talking about the fact of Trump and Homan backtracking mass deportations and wanting to keep DACA here? Just admit it, LOL. No need to panic. Block people, LMAO. Perfect response. He says, I'm actually blocking you because I don't like the way you spoke to me. This is not about any particular thing the Trump admin has done or said. And I keep seeing this. I keep frickin' seeing this sentiment all over, even among some friends of mine. Each time they're hanging on the 24-hour news cycle or the 24-minute news cycle or whatever it is at this point. They're hanging on this. And any time there is the slightest expression of some sort of opposition or any Trump administration official says something that could possibly be construed in some blackpilling way, immediately it goes viral. And everyone just we were tricked. There will be no mass deportations. DOGE isn't going to accomplish anything. Trump's a failure. He's failing just like he failed the first time around. It's all over. These guys have the personalities of histrionic women.
Well, I was just about to say, it's like I think they're a bunch of porn addicts. I think that really is the issue. Like, they're just used to these dopaminergic spikes and like drops, and they can. That's how they function. It's just
they've like, people use the term fear porn. They have that, like, they genuinely engage with the fear in that way. That it's like a porn response. I gotta get off. Oh! Let me see if someone said play the clip, and I was thinking about the clip, so I should probably play the clip. I got to see if I have it here easily available. I think I put it in my highlights. Oh, maybe I didn't. I don't know where the clip is. I don't have it immediately available, but you should stop fucking blackpilling. For example, so I'll address this specific thing here he brings up, the backtracking on mass deportations. This is because Tom Homan said that we're not going to be having, like, the military roaming the streets and going and invading people's houses and dragging them out and everything. We're focusing on violent criminals. And so this has been turned into, okay, mass deportations are off. They're only all the other 10 or 20 or 50 or 500 million people that that Biden has let in. All of them are just going to stay, and there's nothing ever going to. Are you guys children? What, you think that the appropriate way to handle this sort of thing politically is for Tom Homan to be like, yeah, watch out, everyone. We're going to have tanks going down Main Street. We're going to be banging down your doors and dragging out anyone we think is an illegal. There's this. It's really hard to avoid the sense that it's kind of like you have to name the Jew. And if you're not going to name the Jew, then I'm going to chase you around the internet and demand that you name the Jew. It's like you have to politically neutralize yourself publicly. And if you don't politically neutralize yourself publicly, then we're going to brigade you until you politically neutralize yourself publicly.
I can't stand these people, man.
It's like, it's the definition of controlled opposition. Do you know what? Yes. If you want Trump to be successful on any of the things, and when I say Trump, I mean the Trump administration, if you want them to be successful on any of the things that you want them to do, the surest way to ensure that that doesn't happen is to suck all of the political will out of the room. The only way that they're going to be able to be effective is if they're able to retain the political energy necessary to do that. You need to send them good vibes.
If Trump and co gets up there and like, this whole time, he's going to reveal that this whole time he's been like this crypto Nazi. And Trump's going to get up there and name the Jew. Like, okay, well, you can say goodbye to mass deportations or any deportations because he just shot his dick off.
Right. This is like terminally online porn brain. But it's from like ostensibly the alpha male bros, whatever. This whole little subculture
of alpha male bros.
I wasn't even necessarily talking about the Grapers because this is I mean, it's something I think the Grapers seeded. I think they were the primary vector for that, and they've kept that up. But other people have started aping this. There's just... I spend so much time reading the news, listening to all these different people who are connected tangentially to the Trump administration, talking about what they see as the problems going on right now, and the types of plans that they're making to deal with that. And it's so abundantly evident that this is an extremely unique presidential administration. Mark Andreessen is out there. He's spent half of his time since the election at Mar-a-Lago working directly with Trump to interview people who are going to be in the administration. And he's openly talking about how this is an opportunity to do something the scale of which we haven't seen since FDR. He's directly citing Yarvin and talking about the types of moves that are necessary right now. If you can't see how much things have changed, like the only thing that's dragging down the vibe, everyone talks about the vibe shift. Is the vibe shift real? Is the vibe shift not real? The vibe shift is real if you believe it's real. If you decide to dedicate your energy to figuring out all the ways that actually the vibe shift isn't real, and it's a super big psyop by our superhuman enemies who are basically gods, and we might as well worship them. If that's where you're putting all your energy, well then yeah, the vibe shift isn't real. Because you make it not real. The chuds need spirit. We need energy.
Vril.
Relatedly, so I saw everybody, really a lot of what's kicked this off recently is people pearl clutching about Peter Thiel and Palantir. And there was that at that Army-Navy game, you saw Trump and Vance up in the box, and then there was a Palantir logo was one of the sponsors that was up by the big screen, and then there was a Palantir ad in the middle of the game. Here's the ad. So this is the ad. Alaric the Barbarian says, a strange necrotic fear has taken over how we talk about warfare. Replies horrified by weapons development. Even the verbiage is bizarre. We don't call missiles suicide rockets. So, a Palantir advertisement for suicide drones. It's like, you wouldn't call a missile a suicide rocket.
What's a suicide drone? There's no one in it.
Right, yeah. It's because the drone is destroying itself. Well, suicide is not when a thing destroys itself. Suicide is I'm probably saying the word too much now. We're gonna have a banner on the video afterwards.
Yeah, call 988 or whatever.
Yeah. He says so many people have been mind broken by dystopian media. A slam poetry queer lives inside their head. Instead of awe upon seeing something like fighter jets or carrier groups, the first response is fear. You're allowed to find this stuff cool. In fact, it's normal. And he shared this here from Astroflight. Everything you thought was cool when you were 12 is what is actually cool. Arnold, war, metal, huge boobs, all of it. And he said, this is a trained response, not a natural one. Children have it conditioned into them until it sticks. It's a neurotic, womanly way to view the world. And then the replies were enlightening. He triggered a lot of the replies from the people he was talking about. This guy says, it's super gay, but the right has only stoked these fears with excessive moralizing about FPV drones in Ukraine, etc. No fundamental difference between that and a sniper, for example. But what about the nature of warfare has changed? They didn't say this about planes and machine guns and artillery and arquebuses and crossbows. But here's a great example. Sounds cool to get deployed to the Gulf of Oman, then have my legs blown off by a guided AI drone. So inspiring. Also, how dishonest of you. I know you have enough aesthetic sense to see that they deliberately chose that color palette to make the ad as ominous and alien as they could. Alaric says it's supposed to be imposing and futuristic, no different from old ads for fighter jets or new weapon systems. And you're clearly not getting deployed anywhere. This is what I mean. It's bizarre for people nowhere near the military to have neuroses about things like that. And this is exactly it. If you are sitting around obsessed with the notion that you, random chud on the internet, are going to get drafted and deployed to the Middle East, you are a retard.
Honestly, it'd be good for them.
Probably, yeah. Because
Go
you might go do something productive.
Yeah.
But even the freaking irony of this is an ad for drones. What is the defining characteristic of drone warfare? Human beings are not involved in it. It just, but this is what I'm talking about. There's this, like he says, this necrotic sense of fear where now everyone's had it bludgeoned into their heads that, oh, they're going to put white guys in the ads to get white guys to sign up for the military so they could go down range and kill jihadis or whatever. And literally nothing else about the trajectory of global events right now points to the United States is about to institute a draft. Can you fathom how much of a catastrophic failure a draft announcement right now would be? And then what's the alternative here? Like, oh, we should just not have a military? Are you going to quote me something about how the founders didn't want a standing military? Yeah, you know what? In a world of standing militaries, you need to have a standing military. Stop living in fake world in your head. I, for one, would love to have the United States military be extremely powerful and imposing. I want a very strong U.S. military. Because I recognize that if there is not a very strong U.S. military, there's not going to be a U.S. So this notion that our government has been occupied, and so we need to get rid of the military. They might use the military against us, so the military should go away. How is that a solution? The military goes away, and then you're just gonna shoot AIPAC or something? What's the? There's no rationale here. It's just
there'll be private security that is run by insurance agencies that bid over the nukes and
right. Insurance companies are going to save the day. That's what it is.
Dude, that is the actual solution that that AMCAPs suggests. Just there'd be insurance companies that draft up rules, operating agreements with each other. That's who's gonna. Have you had to deal with an insurance company?
Yeah, right.
Those are the people who are gonna run our.
There's been some big story in the news lately that relates to insurance companies and the general perception of people toward them.
Someone violated the NAP.
Yeah. Straight Buster says we need Navy ads with Frogman and Godsmack again. Hell yeah. Here's the other thing. Putting myself in the mind of the majority of the guys I see talking like this, there's something very special about white men, right? We want a society that's run by white men. So if the military goes and recruits a whole bunch of white men, what am I to conclude from this? If white men consolidated in an area make everything better, then wouldn't the best way to fix the military be recruiting a bunch of white men? Isn't there going to be some natural purification effect to the military by recruiting a bunch of white boys? I don't know about you, but I would rather have a military full of a bunch of white boys than not. It wasn't lost on me that the national anthem, there was one white guy in that whole thing. It was a fat Asian chick, and there was a couple of black guys and some generic ethnicity mashups. There's one white guy out there. Yeah. So what's the long time horizon approach with this sort of mindset? We're just not going to have a military again. Like, oh, the government's been taken over by insert opposition category here. And so our answer is just hunker down and hide under our table and shriek about our pet issues.
Yeah,
this
you
is
gotta name the Jew.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, that's what's going to fix everything. There's a real crabs in a bucket thing going on here. And in the build up to the election, there was like this pent up. I called this ahead of time. There's this big pent up energy up to the election. After the election, now it's like, okay, what are we directing our energy toward? Everyone's just kind of waiting for, like, point me towards something. And so when a story pops up, everyone's like, oh, maybe this is the story now. So let's all channel our energy into this and have all of our takes. And, oh, man, that story died. Okay, on to the next one. Let's wrap our energy around this thing and get all excited. But this is really just like the behavior of people being led around by the nose. We have to get proactive about where we're directing our time and attention. And there's just so many indicators. One of my favorite people to listen to right now is Tom Luongo, because he just calls it like it is. And there are so many indicators of the trajectory right now.
Retarded.
That's true. I guess I should just stop ranting and just say that. If you disagree with me, you're retarded. It's that simple. Peter Thiel is saying interesting things. Now, there was a guy in here who was talking about Ivan Illich just a minute ago. Here's Peter Thiel referencing Ivan Illich. And this is an interview I strongly recommend you guys go listen to, this two-part interview he did with the Hoover Institute, talking about Antichrist and Armageddon. There's a lot of people who seem to think that if you do a search for Peter Thiel Antichrist, which I did because I was looking for some of these clips, it's a bunch of people who are saying that Peter Thiel is the Antichrist, because they've got this really gay Whitney Webb view of the world, which is like Peter Thiel is an aspiring supervillain who is doing everything he can to, like, he's the one who's behind everything. He's the one behind Zog. He's the one behind everything, because Palantir is now given him this is like his tool of magical powers for taking over the world. And are people just not listening to the man speak? Listen to what he talks about here: Antichrist and Armageddon.
I think it was Ivan Illich who said that in the time before Christ, there were many forerunners to Christ. In the time after Christ, there will be many forerunners of the Antichrist. So in some sense, it's a type. So Nero was a type of the Antichrist, or maybe Napoleon was a type of the Antichrist. And it's sort of it's someone who aspires for world domination, to create, the creation of this sort of one world state. In some ways, Alexander the Great was sort of a pre-Christ prototype of the Antichrist. It's sort of very parallel to Christ. They both die at 33. Alexander conquers the world. Christ saves. It's a sort of a compare and contrast. And so, but in some sense, the Antichrist as an idea is something that really comes into being in the world after Christ. And so there's, and then there's a lot of things about it that are mysterious. In some ways, the Antichrist copies Christ. The Antichrist pretends to be greater than Christ, hyper-Christian, ultra-Christian, and then maybe only ultimately, deeply anti-Christian. You can think of it as a system, where maybe communism is a one-world system. So it can be an ideology or a system. And then of course, you can also think of it as Newman did, where it's sort of the final dictator of the one world state, where it's still, you stress it more as a person. You can think of it as a type, a system, a person. How does a sort of world takeover actually happen? And it's kind of not a deus ex machina, but like a daemonium ex machina. It's like the Antichrist just gives these hypnotic speeches where nobody can remember a word, and then sort of just swindles people's souls out of them, and they submit to this totalitarian state or something like this. And I think if we were to speculate on how to solve that plot hole, we have an answer in the world after 1945. That people are in 1900, early 20th century, people were not yet scared of apocalyptic weapons. They could not imagine, anything of the scale that we'd have by the second half of the 20th century. And so the Antichrist takes over by talking about Armageddon.
And then following on from that,
you're scared enough of these things. That's the weapon. And this is sort of where my speculative thesis is that if the Antichrist were to come to power, it would be by talking about Armageddon all the time. And
Peter Thiel, the Antichrist would talk about Armageddon all the time.
He'd scare people and then offer to save them. Yes, it's the 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety. And so, which is nothing wrong with peace and safety, but you have to sort of imagine it resonates very differently in a world where the stakes are so absolute, where the stakes are so extreme, where the alternative to peace and safety is, Armageddon and the destruction of all things. And then that's where peace and safety gets you way more than it would have in 1750.
Do you have any immediate thoughts on this, Cooper?
No.
Sounds.
He's not stuttering so much.
That's true. Yeah. And I think part of that is he's in a very comfortable setting with a friendly interviewer. But he also this is something he's been talking about for a while. The motto of the Antichrist will be trust and safety. And I don't remember if it was in this clip or in one of the clips, the other ones I was listening to where he was talking about it, but he cited 1 Thessalonians 5:3 and said peace and safety is the watchword of Antichrist. And he's elaborated in these interviews that his concern is you have all of these existential apocalyptic scenarios that are being set up. So you have climate change or fascism or whatever the cause du jour of all the ice caps are going to melt and all the cities are going to drown or whatever. Everyone has their favorite apocalyptic scenario that is going to come to pass, and it's all the fear mongering about that creates the pretext for the Antichrist. Now, his understanding of this, the way he elaborated on this, sounds basically orthodox. And I happen to have I've heard from enough people who are close to him that Peter Thiel is a very serious devout Christian. I've said this on the show before, and everyone spurgs out because he's gay. It turns out that you can have a deep lifelong struggle with a particular passion, and that actually doesn't make you not a devout Christian. It turns out. So the way he describes this is, Antichrist can be a person, it can be a system. It presents as hyper Christian. In fact, it's saying Christ isn't good enough. In fact, and this is the pretext for the Antichrist, either as a person or as a symbol or as a system, that it cloaks itself in Christian rhetoric and Christian language, but ultimately it is coming to power, promising to save people from the great apocalypse. And I just can't help but wonder about the psychology of the people who are constantly apocalypse fear-mongering, who also seem to think that Peter Thiel is the Antichrist. That this is actually his big 97D chess play, which is he is the Antichrist who's trying to warn everybody against the Antichrist, and so he's being the Antichrist. Which okay, sure, I guess run with that thesis if you'd like. But all I'm seeing in a world that has been laden down with the degeneracy and the chaos and whatever else, everything that's been weighing on the spirit of mankind, I see all of this apocalypse fear-mongering, that every single thing that all these drones that are out there, this is the plan for them creating a drone surveillance state, and you're never going to be able to leave or go anywhere or do anything. All of this apocalypse fear-mongering constantly provides no value except for feeding into this exact phenomenon that he's describing, which is everyone's afraid of this form of Armageddon or this form of Armageddon or this form of Armageddon or this form of Armageddon, and collectively, because everyone's afraid of Armageddon, they wind up landing right in the lap of the Antichrist. And so what he says, it wasn't in one of these clips, but he says, there's these two paths, and I want to find the one in the middle. Where's the narrow path where you're not traipsing along behind the Antichrist, but you're also not fear-mongering about Armageddon. We need a revival of spirit. Something to focus on, something to build. Because here's the thing: 2025 is going to be extremely chaotic, extremely tumultuous. There will be many spirits roaming around, trying to capture your mind and direct it toward resentment and fear and despair. Despairing is the greatest sin. It's like the ultimate manifestation of pride. If you despair, you're saying, I'm too good for this world. This world can't even meet my standards. And it's contagious. This despair is contagious. We're going into the winter. Everyone's cold. The nights are long. The days are short. There's lots of turmoil and fear hanging in the air. And nobody is going to benefit from this constant, really feminized fear-mongering. That's why the first video that I played, that fuck yeah, we're America and we're back, like that's the spirit. That's we need to unleash the vril. Get men inspired to build things and do things. One of the greatest examples right now of builders, people who are actually aspiring to something great and putting their money where their mouth is Elon Musk. Here's a clip from Thiel talking about DOGE. He was on. I haven't listened to this whole interview yet, but Thiel was on Piers Morgan, which is very interesting. Jason says, the city of London is staffed by merchants of despair. Indeed. And also, I'll add to that, when you are promoting despair, you are an employee of the city of London. So here's Thiel's commentary on the DOGE.
The strong consensus view in the DC establishment is that this is going to go nowhere, that it's just absolutely impossible to fix things, and this is, it's going to be sort of a very, very frustrating dead end. The alternate view, I would say, is you should never bet against Elon. We all know there's an extraordinary amount of waste, and it is unsustainable, and the 6% of GDP deficits that the U.S. has cannot be sustained. They probably cannot even be sustained for even the rest of this decade. There are two ways to resolve them. You can
like a naked mole rat.
Cut spending and cut waste, or you can raise taxes massively. And I take this election in the U.S. for standing for the proposition we're not going to go the European-style socialist route of having massive tax hikes, and then that suggests you need to try something like the DOGE thing, and that's actually what is going to happen.
I would say that the don't bet against Elon is probably good life advice. Listening to Tom Luongo lately, he's dropped a little nugget, and I haven't seen enough people pick up on it yet. But he said a couple of weeks ago that he'd been in conversations with some people who were affiliated with the transition team, and he said that they have their plan for cutting $2 trillion out of the budget is actually fairly. Like, he's like, they're going to do it. He's like, I had no idea what they were going to do. And then somebody told me what they were going to do. And I was like, duh. It makes so much sense. It's so easy. And since then, Tom has been saying consistently, like, it's going to happen. There is no they're just going to kind of beat around the bush or whatever. You could see by the way they're building out the team around doing this. They've laid out all of their plans for how they're going to do it. And Senator Marsha Blackburn gave a hint that reinforced what Luongo was saying was being told to him, which is they're going to use the power of the audit. They're going to audit all of these government agencies. It's going to be day one, announced that they're all being placed under audit, and it freezes all of the funds. Every single one of these agencies, NGOs, everything is going to be audited. This is the mechanism that they're going to use. He was right. Powell wants to shrink the Fed's balance sheet. There's the first 6 months of next year are going to be very, very tumultuous because they're going to have to slash a bunch of stuff, cut rates because they're going to get a big deflationary effect, and then they're going to have a big inflationary effect, and they're going to be trying to balance these things and reallocating all of this spending all at the same time while Europe is falling apart. So the first 6 months probably of the year, maybe all of 2025 are going to be really, really tumultuous, economically tumultuous. There's no way around it. They're ripping the Band-Aid off. And in order to accomplish what they claim to want to accomplish, to actually hold their feet to the fire and ensure that they do it, the way to do that is not to doom and blackpill about it. Because this is hailing back to the stop fucking blackpilling clip. The news drops are going to be constant and relentless. Because their only hope is to take this whole crisis and lay it at Trump's feet and say Trump is responsible for it. This is what MAGA gets you. Running the same post-Brexit game that was run in the UK. Where all the bad stuff that's happening to you now, this is because of Brexit. It's the Tories' fault. The Tories did it to you. They're going to want to run that exact same playbook. And so even if you are skeptical or cynical about these efforts to slash out waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government, even if you're skeptical about that, or especially if you're skeptical about it, that means that we need narrative discipline more than ever. We need to make ourselves resilient against the mind colonizing poison that the press are going to be constantly pushing out. Because their only hope right now is to be able to undermine the vibe shift and take away the political mandate from Trump by convincing everyone that Trump is actually a pawn for them. That Trump is the one who's responsible for all of this economic strife. Because there's going to be economic strife. There's no way that you can resolve some of these issues they're trying to resolve without having strife for several months at least. But the thing is, if they're able to do 5% of what they want to do, the consequence of it is going to be a time of unprecedented explosive growth and productivity. Never will there have been a better time in our lives for people to amass great wealth, to prepare, to set up their generations for the future. But in order to be part of the class that benefits from all of this growth, you have to extract your mind from the anus of the legacy press. Stop slurping up all the diarrhea that they pour out.
Stop eating ass.
Yeah. And just be freaking positive, man. It's so easy. When they say, Trump is a Manchurian candidate, or Trump is responsible for this, or this person did this thing, or look at their connections to Israel, or look at the business deals they've been involved in the past. I don't care. He's doing what I want him to do. He's going to do it. Look, he's successfully doing it. Every single time there's some story about how they're being ineffective, or it's not working, or they've run into this legal problem, or look at this lawsuit that's been presented, or look at this person who got fired because they weren't being effective. They're going to hone in on every last little one of these stories. In the same way that they're going to, with the mass deportations, they're going to give you all the sob stories in the world. And in the meantime, the Trump administration is going to be actively forced to try to play 4D chess. They're going to have to play the politics game. So people like Tom Homan are going to have to say, our focus is on getting rid of the violent criminals. Are you in opposition to getting rid of the violent criminals? No, we're not going to be sending tanks down Main Street and plundering your houses looking for illegals hiding under the floorboards. Why would you think that? Why would you frame us as being the big evil bad guys? We're here to actually help people by getting violent people out of their communities. Our response? Yes, good. That's very good. We want that to happen. Once you get rid of all the violent criminals out of the communities, let's go to the next step. We don't need to solve all of these problems all at once because you're like some scared, insecure little boy who just wants to see someone name the Jew on national television. They have to play politics because this is how the world works. But their biggest weakness, their biggest potential vulnerability is the absolute lack of imagination or constitution in Trump's base. Their insistence upon extracting a black pill out of every possible story. This is what I love about the completely insane QAnon people. You know what you can't do with them? You cannot sap the political will out of them. They have an endless supply of it. Are they insane? Yes, absolutely. But you know what's great? Is there's a ton of utility in that form of insanity. Relentless optimism. No matter what, everything is going to work out. If you were galaxy braining about how everything is going to work out, that's a good thing. You ought to be galaxy braining about how everything is going to work out versus galaxy braining about how everything is not going to work out.
Patriots in control.
Yeah, the Patriots may be in control, but the Black Hats have accessed your audio quality.
Apparently the washer's running. So
oh yeah,
that's good. It's really loud.
It has nuked your audio. It's all staticky now.
Oh good. Well, I'm out of I'm gonna get out of here anyway.
Okay, sounds good.
Later.
See you, boss. Do me a favor and hit the like button, folks. We're already at 72. We got 135 watching right now, 72 likes. I think we could get to 100 today. It's been a while. These fucking tards. All they ever had to do was trust the plan. That's right. Trust the plan. So here's an interesting little bit of 4D chess. Trump can fire anybody he wants thanks to Sean Spicer. President-elect Donald Trump is arriving at the White House armed with a legal weapon that will let him fire any of President Joe Biden's appointees. Thanks in part to a court fight, former Trump White House spokesman Sean Spicer lost over his firing by Biden from a 3-year term to the Board of Visitors to the United States Naval Academy. The incoming president will have the legal backing to dump any of Biden's over 4,000 appointments who try to stick around. And the best part, Spicer told Secrets, quote, they'll have no one to blame but Biden himself. The case dates to September 8, 2021, when Biden began to fire Trump allies from the visitor boards at the academies of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army. For the visitor boards at the academies, I didn't even know this position existed. Spicer and others, including Russ Vought, just picked by Trump to head the OMB, and former Trump counselor Kellyanne Conway were unceremoniously dumped despite several of them having time left on their 3-year terms. Spicer and Vought sued, saying that unlike White House staff or others appointed by a prior president, they couldn't be fired because of their congressionally mandated terms. They lost, however, when a judge essentially ruled that the president could fire any presidential appointee, whether they had terms or not. A further effort failed, too. Spicer said that is exactly what he hoped the courts would do because he wanted to help a future Trump presidency fire Biden's picks without having its hands tied. Quote, what no one ever understood was this was not about actually getting back on the board because my term had been expired for months. It was forcing them to argue in the affirmative that they had the ultimate authority to fire anybody at any time, which they did. And the court accepted that. So the Biden administration is now on record in court, and the court agreed that the president had absolute authority to fire anyone he wants, Spicer said in an interview. And here's his termination letter, September 8, 2021. Dear Mr. Spicer, on behalf of President Biden, I'm writing to request your resignation as a member of the Board of Visitors to the United States Naval Academy. Please submit your resignation to me by the close of business today. Should we not receive your resignation, your position with the board will be terminated effective 6 p.m. tonight. Thank you. Sincerely, Catherine M. Russell, Assistant to the President, Director, White House Office of Presidential Personnel. Did I mention trust the plan? Now, obviously, when I say trust the plan, that doesn't mean sit back with your thumb up your ass and expect someone to save you. Expect someone else to fix all of the problems. It's the exact opposite. It is begin operating under the presumption that there is a plan that will clear out hurdles for you or will make it easier for you to clear out hurdles for yourself. And the actual prescription here is going to be different for different people based on where you are, what you're doing. It may be that you need to create a little community in your local area and start getting, protecting your property rights. Or for someone else, it might be starting a business, or it might be expanding business or buying out something over here. I just saw I tweeted yesterday. There's a commercial real estate. The commercial real estate market is about to go tits up, and there's going to be a whole bunch of defaults, and a whole bunch of commercial real estate is going to be available for real cheap. So anybody who's been able to maintain liquidity has a great opportunity to scoop up a whole bunch of real estate. And you could just scoop it up just for the sake of having it, or you could make use of it. There's never, ever, ever going to be a better time in American history to build an American business, to build anything American. If there's one thing that's abundantly evident about every single thing coming out of the incoming Trump administration, it's that building things in the United States is going to get way, way easier, which is a very, very good thing, because the downstream effects of a actively creative, building, productive, prosperous, growing economy, it's gonna trickle down and benefit everyone else, but only the people who actually position themselves to benefit from it. If your approach to politics is, I sit in my armchair and tweet about things and yell at the people who don't do what I want them to do, well, you're probably not really going to benefit. Honestly, you're probably going to benefit just by default. You won't really deserve it, but you will benefit from it anyways because of the rising tide. But there is going to be an all-out assault on your spirit to try to drag you down, to demoralize you, to paralyze you, to ensure that you don't contribute to the re-civilization of America. Because that's the last desperate hope. The last desperate hope is to strangle the vibe shift in its crib by demoralizing the chuds. So don't be demoralized. Just simply refuse. None of the enemies that you have are better than you. None of them are going to outsmart you. They're not going to outwork you. They're not going to out-willpower you. They don't matter. They exist to make you better. Trump has commented on these drones. This is from Friday. Trump says, mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know and now. Otherwise, shoot them down, DJT. Now, this is interesting because there's a couple of typos here, and he doesn't really tend to have typos in his tweets. I don't think so, and otherwise, shot them down. I'm very surprised, honestly, that I haven't seen. My algorithm keeps enough of the Q people trickling in from time to time. I haven't actually seen any of the tweets where they break down why they believe these typos were intentional and are signaling something. But if those are out there, I hope the algorithm rewards me by giving them to me. And then he's elaborated on this today in a press conference. He says the government does know what's happening. Something strange is going on.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been?
Do you have any reason to think they're?
It seems pretty clear to me that he knows what it is, and he's given the government a chance to talk about it, which is kind of an interesting postural. There's kind of interesting postural dynamic here, where he he's being kind of careful with what he's saying, but he's also indicating, like, you can kind of read between the lines. He knows exactly what's going on. He says the military knows, the administration knows. For some reason, they're not letting other people know. I can't imagine that it's the enemy. So he knows that it's a domestic thing. Now, the theories that I've seen out there are that there's, number one, that there's a nuclear warhead that is missing in the United States. I've seen some people who've questioned that, called into question the credibility of the guy reporting that. So I was going to play that clip, but I decided not to. I want to hold off a little bit and see if there's some more validation for that. The other thing is that they're scanning for radiation, looking for a potential dirty bomb. And the significance of Bedminster, Mela, is Trump has a golf course there in Bedminster. I've also seen people speculating that this is a preparation for inauguration and something happening there. Honestly, I don't really think that the speculation does anything for us. This has become another example of the exact sort of mentality that I'm talking about, where someone sees something like this and they start saying, "Oh, well, see, this is the CIA, or this is the whoever. Pick whoever the person is that you think starts it all. And this is them trying to demoralize us or scare us, or they've got some master plan." And it's pretty abundantly evident that these people don't do master plans. These people are incompetent and retarded. That's the danger. The danger is that the people running the show are incompetent and retarded. Not that they're like master schemers. How many data points do we need before this becomes evident? They are comically corrupt and evil. And they're incredibly unimpressive, sheltered, stupid people. If you're defaulting to this is part of their master plan, you are granting them power that they don't have. They definitely want you to believe this is part of their master plan because they want you to believe that they're competent and in control. Here's the problem. Every single sort of black swan event that they might precipitate here makes their hold on power weaken. This last election and everything building up to it and everything since then is the whole vibe shift is a massive vote of no confidence in the existing leadership. So if you get some sort of a big false flag attack, it's not going to magically boost confidence in them. It's just going to increase the demands for them to be cast out of power by more and more dramatic means. People are going to be more and more willing for an incoming Trump administration to move into power in some sort of extra legal fashion, the crazier that the existing regime gets. This is their dilemma. If they provoke World War III, if you've been listening to the show, you know that I think we're actually closer to the end of World War III than the beginning. But in the way people talk about it, if they get Russia to nuke someone, or if they nuke some part of Russia or something and frame it on them, or figure out whatever British intelligence thing that they do, that's just going to enhance. Like, this is playing directly into their own opposition's hands. Nothing makes people want this incoming administration more than further displays of incompetence or corruption or bad behavior by the existing regime. Let me score back up here real quick because I saw that we got some gifted memberships. Shout out to Screwed Up Texas, gifted 5 memberships. The lucky recipients are Taylor Brown, Melaforta, Cyberchud, Magoo, and Ape with Agency. A bunch of regulars in here. Congratulations, guys. Welcome to the King Pilled. And then Slosher with 5, Dom Alexander, Vigo, Sam, Andrew Starr, and Real Hoopties of Genesee County. One of the best names on YouTube. Welcome, guys. Let's see here. Oh, this was a funny question here. This was Trump's reaction to this guy is pretty funny. So this reporter in the same press conference asked Trump a stupid question, and kind of an interesting demeanor thing here with Trump. I'll play the video and then we'll comment on it.
Are you entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities?
Against who?
Against Iran's nuclear.
Well, I can't tell you that. I mean, it's a wonderful question, but how can am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that?
Would you
Say it?
Would you be in support of Israeli strikes on Iran?
How could I tell you a thing like that now? It's just so you don't talk about that before something may or may not happen. You know, just I don't want to insult you. I just think it's just not something that I would ever answer, having to do with there or any other place in the world.
To follow up on your Time magazine interview, can I ask just clearly, do you believe there's a connection between vaccine?
So I don't know how well you guys could hear that, but the guy asked him, "Would you preemptively strike Iran's nuclear facilities?" And Trump says, "Am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? Is that a serious question? How could I answer?" The again, evidence that these people are retarded. A qualified, seasoned reporter would know that this is a pointless question to ask, because this is the only sort of answer that you're going to get. Would you be? Will you answer my question? And like, what's he going to say? Yes, actually, we're thinking about doing preemptive strikes on Iran. It's completely retarded. The whole point of a preemptive strike is it's preemptive. You don't talk about it out in public before you do it. But what's interesting here is the way that he responded to him. Now, Trump has never had any problem telling someone that they're retarded if they say something retarded. He's been more than happy to get into pissing matches with reporters in the past. But here he was actually kind of like, he was like, it's a great question, and I don't want to insult you or anything, but like so he said it's a retarded question, while he also was like, I'm not gonna insult you over this. Which is part of this, FB informant says he was very presidential. It's a little bit of a different Trump, a little more magnanimous, a president for all. This when I played that for Cooper earlier, and it reminded him of this meme. Holden Blood Feast, Republican from Iowa, 118 years old. Please God, just let us nuke Iran. Nothing else matters. I'll do anything, please. I just want to see burning flesh one last time before I die. Respectable bipartisan. This is a John McCain meme. Okay. Continuing on this this trend of the people in power being retarded, unimpressive people. Supreme Court Justice Jumanji makes Broadway debut in And Juliet, a queer twist on Romeo and Juliet. The play features May, Juliet's he, she, they best friend. Jackson previously said it was her life goal to perform on a Broadway stage. I, a Miami girl from a modest background with an unabashed love of theater, dreamed of one day ascending to the highest court in the land. And I had said so in one of my supplemental application essays, she said in her memoir. I expressed that I wished to attend Harvard, as I believed it would help me fulfill my fantasy of becoming the first black female Supreme Court justice to appear on a Broadway stage.
Empowerment. Sick. I like it too. I think what I like about it is that I am having a very strongly negative reaction to it. Like I hate it. Which makes me think it must be brilliant.
Got this feeling in my body.
Okay, that's enough of that. Orrin McIntyre said, I looked this up because I thought that no matter how ridiculous America had become, this could not be real. But it is. Thank you, Lord, for giving us retarded enemies. So Open Source Zone here has tweeted about this breakdown of the third-party voters' preference second option. So all the third-party voters from 2024, who was their second option? So the Jill Stein voters were plus 46 to Trump. So 67% of the Jill Stein voters, Trump was their second option. For the RFK voters, it was plus 33. So interestingly, RFK, who is actually part of the Trump administration, his voters were less enthused with him than Jill Stein's voters. What sort of weird world do we live in where the Green Party voters are overwhelmingly pro-Trump? And then the Libertarians, the Libertarians were the most pro-Harris. This is from Lake Research. Complete realignment. This does feed into my speculation that the Libertarian Party, if the leadership plays it right, they might be able to cut in pretty significantly into the power of the Democrats as the official second like outer party, which would be very good for the Trump administration. And then here's Van Jones, who every once in a while gets things right, talking to Chris Cillizza, which is just I would change my name if my last name if I had this guy's characteristics and my last name was Cillizza, I would probably change my name. But anyways, here's Van Jones talking about how Democrats are retarded.
How the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes, how did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. Yeah, so everybody keeps, I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime, and we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary.
You're totally right.
I can't get enough of it. There's some Trudeau news going on. There was I don't know if anything's happened in the last couple hours since I started doing the stream, but before I get to the Trudeau stuff, here's I'll just play it.
Justin, look at this faggot. There you go. Justin, look at this faggot. There you go. Justin.
There you go. So chaos in Canada. The finance minister, who's the I guess the second, the second in command, Chrystia Freeland. She resigned today, just hours before she was supposed to report the fall budget numbers. Then the next person in line immediately resigned, and now Trudeau is considering resigning.
Mr. Speaker, just to underline the chaos we're faced with here, the finance minister resigned the day she was to present the fall budget, which was going to contain a massive deficit overrun. The job then went automatically to the industry minister, who immediately resigned, like on the spot, which then went down the line, and the next person in order was the famous two Randys. And they're not available to do the job either. We're now less than 2 hours away from the fall economic update. Why won't the Prime Minister have the courage to come in here, present it himself, and put it for a confidence vote tonight? Mr.
My president, all it took was him saying, you know what? Maybe we're just gonna annex you. And and the faggot in chief up north is crumbling. Now he's even gotten the chief Pajit, who's been one of his biggest backers, has now completely abandoned him.
People are having a very hard time paying for groceries. Young people can't find affordable housing. And beyond that, we have the threat of Trump's tariffs. And that's putting hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada in danger. And instead of dealing with issues that are important for Canadians, the Prime Minister is dealing with fighting in his own party. It's clear that the Prime Minister cannot continue. Will he resign today, yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, the NDP leader is absolutely right. This cannot continue. This Prime Minister cannot go on like this. Housing costs have doubled. Food bank use has doubled. The debt has doubled. Gun crime has doubled. And now we face troubling tariff threats from a president who can see weakness coming from a mile away. The Prime Minister must leave this job, but there's only one person who can remove him, and that's the leader of the NDP. Will he put the country ahead of his pension?
Now, I'm not even going to pretend to understand how Canadian politics works because I'm an American. All I know is that, as Witt said here, Trump is the eye of Sauron. When my president looked north of the border, immediately everyone fell apart. That is the sheer magnitude of his power, unmatched in the world. All he had to do was joke about annexing Canada, or was it a joke? All he had to do was joke about annexing Canada, and all the rats started scrambling. Appropriately here, from one of my Leaf brothers, got 5 Leaf bucks here from Slosher. He says the Canadian economy is screwed. They know how bad it is. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. They'll try to blame it on Trump. It's interesting here that Poilievre is continuing this. He's not slobbing Trump's knob. He's maintaining kind of a distance from him. And I get the sense that Poilievre doesn't like Trump at all personally. But the way he frames this, like the last clip that I played, I think it was on Friday's show, is like, this isn't Trump's fault. This is our weak leadership's fault. And our weak leadership is cowering in the presence of Trump. So he's actually kind of paying Trump a compliment. Shit's going to get rough in Canada. I feel for you guys. And it's going to be rough here. It's going to be rough in Europe. It's going to be rough in Canada because I can understand like the maybe the antipathy or hostility that some Canadians feel toward America, because a lot of the reasons why they're so gay and fucked up north of the border is because of shitty stuff that people ostensibly representing America have done. But hopefully the revitalization of America can trickle down to or trickle up, I suppose, to our esteemed leafy hat. Many Leafs say Poilievre is regime con. Yeah, I don't think that Poilievre is anybody super impressive. I don't think he's not Trump. Okay, I just got a couple interesting things here related to X, and then I've got a long post here about IQ, which is interesting, and then a thread on the first submarine warfare. So let us go here, share the screen. So Culture Critic said, wow, Elon just confirmed that X is planning to launch its own email service. Would you ditch Gmail for Xmail? Yes, 100% I would. And Ross here says, to be honest, I just like an email address that goes into a plain text DM inbox and abstracts the annoying and messy thread/formatting mess that is email. The main nice thing about email is that it is a universal handle system and compatible with everything, so you don't have to download a new app, input a contact, or connect with someone. And Elon said, that's exactly what we are going to do. I am more than happy for X to become just the only thing that I use connected to the internet. I am fully on board. The X as the everything app. I want X TV. I want X mail. I want you give me a X bank account. X cell phone. Give me it all. Give me it all. Just do it well. Do it well. Give it to me. I'll take it. Grok has become my default search engine. I've almost never used Google or even honestly Perplexity as much anymore. Sometimes I'll use Perplexity just because I have the widget on my screen so I can open it quicker versus opening X, going to Grok. But it's just not even close. Have you guys how much have you guys been using Grok or even ChatGPT or any of these other services? Once you start using it, it's just like I can ask questions that are kind of like a nuanced question. And I'll sometimes search for it on Google just to see what it'll give me, and it's nothing. It's just the worst results ever. It doesn't tell me anything, doesn't answer my question, and it's a relatively straightforward question as well. Like before the stream today, I searched for I didn't remember exactly what Peter Thiel's role was with respect to Palantir right now. He's one of the founders. I don't remember how much of the equity he still holds, and I don't remember what his exact position with it was. So I searched on Google Peter Thiel's role at Palantir or relationship to Palantir or something like that. And got a bunch of shitty news articles about him selling stock and other stuff that this doesn't answer my question. I went to Grok. I said, what is Peter Thiel's relationship to Palantir? And it told me, in one quick paragraph, it said, co-founder, current chairman, and I think he has a 5% stake in the company or something like that. And recently he sold this for this reason and whatever else. There's just no reason to use anything else now. Google search its days are limited. It's just not a useful tool anymore. Brian Romelli here has an interesting idea for how he uses Grok. I want to share this with you guys because I bookmarked this to save to come back to and use in the future, and you guys may enjoy it as well. Go to kingpill.substack.com, go to the Kingpill Substack and subscribe over there, or you can get the audio version on all the podcasts. That's where I put all of the links for everything that I went over today. So if this is interesting to you, you can go find it there. He says, few know the more you use X, the more Grok becomes the most powerful tool in AI today. I will demonstrate this. I have a series of Grok-based super prompts I use with the new Grok 2 to evaluate news and current events customized to me and how I think. Here's one of them. Grok super prompt. So this is what he says. He says, when you answer my questions, you must consider everything you know about me from my X feed. This includes postings, retweets, likes, and responses to form a context of what would be the best and most accurate answer. It's important to discover novel and unique things within and decent, and it's probably supposed to be relevant to all you know about me. It is very important to cite why you made each suggestion with a link to those postings and websites. Your job, that you always do very well, is to help expand my knowledge, to make me smarter. My question is blank, and then fill in blank with a question. Here's Grok's response. Given your interest in various technologies and phenomena as reflected in your X feed, here's how you might respond to the drone sightings in the news tailored to your interests and activities. Technological curiosity and investigation. Investigate detection technology. You've shown an interest in unique technologies, such as the use of old transistor or tube AM radios for detecting unidentified objects. And with a link to the post, this might lead you to explore how similar low-tech solutions could be used to detect or study the drones, potentially offering a fresh perspective on the issue. Visual analysis. Your fascination with photography, as noted with your appreciation for Maria Passer's work, could push you to analyze or collect visual evidence of these drones. You might look into the optics or imaging technology used to capture these sightings more clearly for public or personal analysis. Historical and cultural context. Given your interest in historical narratives and human behavior, as seen in your post about Jack and the Hummingbird, you might delve into historical instances where similar phenomena were reported, drawing parallels to current events. This could provide insights into human perception and reaction to unexplained aerial phenomena. Your involvement in training AI on diverse media suggests you might use AI to analyze patterns in drone sightings data, perhaps to predict future occurrences or understand their behavior better. This could involve creating or collaborating on AI models that learn from the patterns of these sightings. Educational content, community response, privacy and security concerns. Conclusion, your response to the drone sightings would likely be multifaceted, combining your technological curiosity, historical insights, data analysis skills, and a commitment to public education. Then he had Grok do an analysis of that prompt, doing recursive responding. This is the sort of thing that is really going to, as we have this the revitalization in America, America being reindustrialized and building here, creating new technologies, AI as a tool is going to be effectively like an IQ upgrade for the people who know how to use it right. It's just undeniably going to be an incredibly powerful tool for people like this who know how to use it. And I've sometimes when I'm like with business stuff, I'm trying to think of a solution to something. When I'll type out what I'm trying to do, and I'll say, this is the way that I'm thinking about it. What are some alternate angles that I could take on this? And just use it as like an idea generation machine. And this is really, really simple, low-level stuff. Now, of course, you get, let's see here, like this answer here. I mean, I don't know who this is. Sharon, AI Wonders. Is this the right one? Yes. She says, I like this, and it could be a great way when creating a digital twin, but at the same time, we must be aware of the following problems that could arise with such prompts. Confirmation bias, echo chamber effect, overspecialization, lack of creativity, missed learning opportunities, cultural myopia. Staying present is really important. You constantly change, at least you should, and your viewpoints on past situations are always based on the past. This strikes me as an AI-generated response, perhaps, but there were other replies in here that... it's people fear-mongering about... The replies were broken into two categories. There was the people who are like, this is awesome, this is really cool, here's some other ways that you could use it, or here's other ways that I've used it. And then the people who are like, here, it's just going to brainwash you, and it's not going to give you real information, and it's going to... Don't be those people. Don't be motivated by fear and despair and just the automatic assumption that every piece of technology out there is always and inevitably and only geared toward corrupting you. Human beings have always created technology. Technology is the natural output of humans. You can't do anything without producing technology. Language is technology. Tools are technology. Like a hammer is a technology. And there's maybe I'm getting like apocalypse fatigue or something. I'm so tired of, there's all these interesting people talking about these wonderful, interesting ways of increasing your own productivity or bootstrapping your own creativity or whatever else. And I can't get away from the people who are just running around doom posting about every piece of technology. Do you know how to make sure that AI becomes like, here's the great irony, is like all of these people who are posting on Twitter, fear porn and doom posting about AI are contributing to the data that is being used to populate the AI. So when the AI model is populated by your data talking about how it's inevitable that the AI is going to be the Antichrist that takes over the world and locks us all in our pods, you're like, the most conservative expectation here would be that if you're constantly pumping that data into the large language model, you're programming it to do that. It's like the actually impulse. This guy posts this cool thing about how he uses the tool, and then people are like, well, actually, if you do this, then you don't know who coded that large language model, and it might be deceiving you, or it might be... Yes, duh. The same thing goes for Google. The person who's typing here angrily, oh, your large language model is populated by communists, and they're going to deceive you. Anyways, let me go make this Google search real quick. Don't be these people. Speaking of that type of person, this is from Lin-Manuel Rwanda. It's a funny name on Twitter. People struggle to imagine a country where the average IQ is 75 because they don't realize how similar a person with an IQ of 75 is to one with an IQ of 115 or even 130. You've probably encountered quite a few without realizing it. They're roughly 5% of the British population. They engage in social conversation in similar ways to everyone else. They can drive, they own and make use of smartphones, they shop at the same stores. There's nothing about them as a group that looks too different from anyone else. If your interactions with them are superficial enough, you just don't notice. It's only when you get to know them a bit better that you start to see the differences. The most obvious one in conversation is vocabulary. They're much more likely to not recognize words that you would use regularly. As you get to know them better, you'll start to realize they tend to be sick a lot more often than anyone you know, and also to show signs of obvious psychological distress much more frequently. They tend to be short of money much more than anyone you know, and they tend to buy more things on a whim. They've always got some kind of crisis going on, whether it's family, financial, health-related, legal, whatever. There's always a big drama. You'll also see that despite long and varied work histories, they tend to spend months out of work at a time. If they aren't involved in crime, usually petty, low-level stuff like affray, someone close to them will be. If you're close enough that they don't mind displaying a bit of vulnerability, they might ask you for help with some of this, say, for instance, filling out a form. And this is the point at which you notice they're not fully literate or numerate. Sure, they can sign their name, they can maybe write a few words when prompted, understand basic written instructions, but anything more complex than this, multi-part paperwork things or administrative tasks that are trivial if dull to you, will quickly prove overwhelming, as will anything other than very basic addition and subtraction. You might also have noticed their text communication occurs exclusively in short phrases and that they're overly reliant on voice messaging. Most of these people will have at least one person in their network a little smarter than them that they lean on for this sort of thing, or a small network of people who are more or less capable in different arenas who will help each other out. Of course, there are also more intelligent people around them who will take advantage of them for their own ends, because they tend to be very credulous, especially towards people they've decided they can trust. They will often be used as fall guys or gophers for smarter and less scrupulous friends or family members, or become victims of obvious and well-known scams. Of course, they're also probably quite superstitious. They'll interpret coincidences as miracles, consequences as divine wrath, mundane things as the result of jinn or other supernatural entities. They'll likely have at least a couple of deeply ingrained behaviors related to their superstitious beliefs that they're at least a little embarrassed to admit to. And this was the part where the reason this story stuck out to me, the reason I wanted to include this in the show today, is I'm beginning to suspect that maybe a lot of these doom posters are really just low IQ people. Like, they're low IQ people who've figured out that they can get attention by posting stuff online, and it allows them to masquerade as smarter than they actually are. Like, I'm not very intelligent, but if I can galaxy brain this stuff out, and I'm, naturally inclined towards superstition in this sort of way, then you get kind of that schizo effect, and then I get attention, and I get the dopamine hits. Then I can masquerade as a super intelligent, high IQ person. But really, they're just like low IQ people who really aren't worth listening to. But this is one of the downsides of social media. As I've said before, the great thing about social media is that it gives anyone a voice. And the worst thing about social media is that it gives anyone a voice. Some people just aren't worth listening to. But if you can hit people's dopamine receptors, they'll hit yours. And so you could get these really genuinely just low IQ people who are, they're just not that smart, which isn't like, it's not a negative about them. It's just a characteristic of them. They're just low IQ, but they post a lot and they hit all of the drama all the time. And so they build up an audience, which gives them the impression of being really intelligent when actually they just aren't. Bam Sammer says they've learned to weaponize anxiety. Yeah, that's a good point. Shout out to Hermetic Hegemony, gifting a membership, and Euthanasia received it. Man, all the bros are getting the memberships today. Welcome to the King Pilled, Euthanasia. As a rule, they also tend to know they're not as smart as everyone else, or at least that they're different, and will try to hide evidence of this from those they don't know well due to shame. Yeah, like, from now on, if I see people doom posting on the timeline, I'm going to assume these are low IQ people. This is a manifestation of low IQ. But despite all this, they survive. Of course, they probably don't live as long as the rest of us. You'll notice they're often attending funerals for friends and family members who died unusually young, are much more likely to smoke, drink heavily, take drugs, be obese, whatever. But they survive. And they survive because, for the most part, intellectual impairment isn't actually very impairing. For those who've read this far going, nah, bro, this is a more accurate description of those in the 85.9 to 97.3453 IQ range, the point is that for almost all practical purposes, there isn't much difference. Take vocabulary, for instance. Having a vocabulary of, say, 5,000 words, very low for English, doesn't really matter that much at the level of mere survival because language has rapidly diminishing returns. About 500 words and enough grammar to be intelligible gets you approximately 80% of the way through all common topics of conversation. By about 3,000 words, you've covered 95 to 99% of common topics of conversation. The same is true of almost everything else. Simply surviving requires only that you eat enough not to starve and are sufficiently sheltered to avoid death by exposure. Most social interactions require only that you know what to say and do to not completely alienate those around you, and so on. This is because intelligence is a measure of your ability to adapt to situations outside of your immediate context and to extrapolate things based on other things. You don't need to be very intelligent to perform simple, concrete tasks of the kind that constitute 95% of our daily routines. And so unless you have a very good reason to pay attention to the remaining 5%, you could easily never notice an individual is 2 standard deviations below the mean. These people also have one further unusual property. They can inadvertently suck those smarter than them who happen to get to know them into a kind of paternalistic vortex. It's easy to look at your 75 IQ acquaintance and think to yourself very reasonably, wow, this person is beset by some real misfortune. Maybe they just need a little bit of help with X. The far-sighted among you can probably see where this sort of thing ends up. Societies with an average IQ of 75 are just societies where most people are like this. On an individual level, you can talk to an average person and they'll seem perfectly normal, but all of the things mentioned above will apply just to more people. And to be clear, I think that the low IQ among us, they don't need to be faulted for being low IQ. They just need to be, it just needs to be recognized that they're low IQ. And it's the responsibility of the rest of us to look out for them. Don't expect them to be something that they're not. Go listen to Stormy and Pete's most recent conversation that Pete just dropped. It's very good, very, very good. Talking about the Luigi's Mansion and the responsibility of the powerful people in society. And I would say powerful. This you can use that word to fill in a bunch of these different vectors here. But if you're powerful in terms of intelligence, it's your responsibility to use that gift to help the people who are less intelligent. If you're powerful in terms of wealth, it's your responsibility to use that gift to help those who are less wealthy. This isn't cucked. This isn't weakness. This is masculinity. Here's a thread from Eric Hunley, at Hunley Eric on Twitter. In 1864, 8 men climbed into a 40-foot iron tube to change naval warfare forever. None would survive the mission, but their sacrifice would make history as the first successful submarine attack in warfare. This is the extraordinary story of the H.L. Hunley. The Civil War wasn't just fought on land. The real power lay in controlling the coastlines. Whoever dominated the seas controlled critical supply lines for food, weapons, and reinforcements. The Confederacy needed a game changer to break the Union's naval blockade. Enter Horace Lawson Hunley, a brilliant engineer with a dangerous vision. Build a vessel that could strike from beneath the waves. His first 2 attempts ended in disaster, but Hunley was obsessed with proving submarines could work. The Hunley was revolutionary. 40 feet of hand-cranked power, 8-man crew pumping in unison, operated by candlelight, armed with a 135-pound torpedo. The conditions inside? Imagine being trapped in a metal coffin with 7 other men gasping for air. That's some legitimate nightmare fuel. The first crew drowned during testing in August of 1863. Can you imagine that? Imagine in the modern era undertaking some sort of a project like this and a crew that's testing it out drowns. Do you think the project would continue? Do you think it would be allowed to persist? As part of the revitalizing of the American spirit is going to necessitate being willing to undertake massive projects that could result in the death of people who are undertaking them because you're taking great risks. Then in October, Horace Hunley made a fateful decision. He would personally demonstrate the sub's safety. He and his entire crew died in the demonstration. The inventor went down with his creation. Yet still, volunteers came forward. Lieutenant George Dixon took command of the third crew. In his pocket, a gold coin that once saved his life at Shiloh. The submarine that had already claimed 13 lives, including its namesake, was about to make history. Target? USS Housatonic, a massive Union warship blocking Charleston Harbor. What happened next would remain a mystery for over 130 years. At 8:45 p.m., Housatonic's lookout spotted something in the water. Too late. The Hunley's torpedo struck, sending 1,240 tons of warship to the bottom in 3 minutes. First submarine kill in history. I don't know what movie this is, but I'm going to find out. But victory came at a terrible price. The Hunley never returned to base. Last sight, mysterious blue lights on the water's surface. The sub and her crew vanished into the depths, taking their secrets with them. In 1995, the wreck was finally found. In 2000, she was raised. Inside, the crew was found still at their stations, no signs of panic. The mystery deepened. Why did they die? Duke University scientists finally cracked it in 2017.
1864, the Confederacy wanted to use the submarine H.L. Hunley to sink the USS Housatonic, a Union ship off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. The Hunley had 135 pounds of black powder attached just a few feet off of its bow. But when it set off its charge, the blast wave from the charge transmitted through the hull of the ship and into the crew compartment, causing fatal lung and brain injuries to the crew inside.
3, 2, 1.
The Hunley is the first successful combat submarine because it was the first submarine ever to actually sink an enemy ship during combat. The Hunley's weapon was a black powder torpedo. It was 135 pounds of black powder, which is about the size of a keg, and it was attached to a long spar that was on the bow of the Hunley. The Hunley attacked with its torpedo by approaching the side of an enemy ship. Using the spar, it jabbed the torpedo into the side of the enemy hull and then triggered the blast. Their spar was only 16 feet long, so they were actually very close to the 135-pound charge. The Housatonic was the Hunley's target. It was hit by its torpedo, and it destroyed most of the stern of the vessel. The entire ship sank within about 5 minutes. For almost 150 years, nobody actually knew what happened to the Hunley after it set off its charge. It was lost to the ocean. And then in 1995, it was found, and in the year 2000, it was raised. Since then, it's been under conservation by the archaeologists at Clemson University. When the Hunley was recovered, she was found to be in surprisingly good condition. The condition of the ship suggests that there was no damage from the actual blast itself, and the conning towers and the bilge pump suggest that the crew didn't take action to escape. My research indicates that the crew of the Hunley actually died from the effects of their own torpedo. I concluded that blast injury killed the crew after doing a series of research experiments using the scale model, the CSS Tiny. I used this model for experiments both here at the Duke Reclaimed Water Pond and in a test site off campus with live explosives.
2, 1. That was beautiful.
The inside of the sub had pressure gauges in addition to the pressure gauges outside the sub, and we showed that the blast forces propagated through the hull into the crew compartment. So So the types of injuries from the crew of the Hunley would have actually been completely different from what we would expect from people in a Humvee hitting an IED. In that case, you're concerned with something called underbody blast, which means there are shrapnel effects and effects from the damage to the vehicle that cause broken bones and other injuries. Whereas with the crew of the Hunley, there was no shrapnel. It was just the blast wave itself that propagated into the vessel. So their injuries would have been purely in the soft tissues, in the lungs and in the brain. And that's actually really consistent with what the archaeologists from Clemson found, meaning that there were no broken bones. Fatal blast traumas occur because the blast wave hits the human body. As it hits a gas-containing space like the lungs, it slows down, and that is what causes trauma to those organs. It's also very likely that these men would have experienced traumatic brain injuries.
Very interesting. The Hunley's legacy lives on, changed naval warfare forever, proved submarines were viable weapons, demonstrated the devastating cost of underwater combat, and showed how innovation often demands the ultimate sacrifice. Today, she rests in Charleston's Warren Lash Conservation Center. Josh Ham says, my brain damage / TBI is a result of concussive force from the bomb. No shrapnel, just the energy in the air. It's very interesting. All right. That's all I got for you today, guys. Appreciate you showing up. We're 2 likes short. Just need 2. 2 and we'll be at 100. Appreciate all the new members. And assuming all goes well, I will be back with another episode of the ASTROLABE tomorrow, unless I get what has been plaguing the rest of the family and wind up dead tomorrow, in which case I will I'll let you know. But for the time being, all is well. I'm feeling good, and I expect to continue feeling good. So I will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of the ASTROLABE. Go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Subscribe to the channel. Wow, look at those likes come in. Well done, guys. Appreciate you. Go to the Kingpill Discord and subscribe, kingpill.com. We'd love to have you in there. If you want to send a little cheddar over here to help me pay the bills and keep doing this, go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. Link is in the description. I appreciate those of you who have sent some cash over. It helps. And yeah, I think that's all I got. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania